Right. Hello, everyone. Lovely to see you all here. There we go. Let's get Based Welshman in. Thank you all for taking the time to come and let me see if Based Welshman. Where the hell where's he gone? He was there a minute ago. Right. Anyway, hello everyone. I hope you're well. I hope you had a lovely Tuesday. It's been absolutely bucking it down here in South Oxfordshire. Hang on, look, guess. Let's just have a look. Right, can I invite Based Welshman in? Yes, I can.
How you doing, Liam?
Stream. Oh,
hello.
There we go. Hello, mate. How you doing?
Right. Not bad,
got
Liam.
Ya.
Excellent. Good.
How was your dinner?
It was all right, actually. Sorry about
that. No, don't worry. Don't worry about it. Right, first thing first. First off, I just have to say thank you for agreeing to, because it's been like, what, 4 days. I was like, right, I need Based Welshman. I need him on my channel because you are front and centre of everything that's happening at the Straddy Park Hotel down in LLanelli in Wales. But first off, before we start,
you've got to pronounce Llanelli correctly.
Llanelli. I thought it was LLanelli.
No, that's much better than Llanelli. Okay. Okay. Right. There's an awful lot of English people trying to say Llanelli, and they can't. They don't even come close. Okay. So when you said let's get one thing straight, I said let's get this one straight. No Englishman can say Llanelli. Okay.
I thought it was LLanelli.
No, that's how the English say it.
Right.
And only the English.
Right, let's go back to the start. Right, for everybody that doesn't know Mr. Based Welshman, we've known each other now 2.5 years. The first time I actually met you, you were at a poll in Westminster against anti-vaxxers, weren't you?
Yeah,
you climbed it up.
But we did meet before that in Napier Barracks a few times.
Oh yeah.
True. So what that happened? So it's 2.5 years. So that happened mid 2020, really. That's when I started filming down Dover.
Yeah.
So mostly about then.
So for everybody that doesn't know you, right? For everybody that doesn't know you, what was it that made you become the activist that you are?
The Manchester bombings.
Right.
So that got me from sort of being sort of floating around the internet, just scanning around, to being sort of active from that point on as such. So I went to UK Against Hate June the 11th, 2017, I think it was, and that started it off, really.
So what? Right. So you then started because you think that, like, obviously the mainstream media and all of that kind of bollocks, all of this bull. Sorry, but it's actually all of the bull that's given. You just thought, no, I've had enough. I'm going to start my own YouTube channel. What is that? What actually?
It wasn't legacy media. It was just, I think, what was happening around that period, and but like the more as time comes on, legacy media, I have so little time, respect, or I look at mainstream media with just distaste near enough all the time, and I question everything that I hear. And that is not just mainstream media, that's everything. Sad, but true.
No, it's true. But you obviously, when I also met you, what was it? Must have been a few months ago, met you in Oxford with the like 15-minute cities, didn't I? I met you and Trigger, didn't I?
Yeah.
Now I have to bring you because a lot of people want to know how Trigger is. So can you please tell everybody what happened to Trigger and how is he doing?
So we were in a footpath, and a cyclist come through about 15 mile an hour, and Trigger ended up with his neck under the front wheel, and the guy falling off his bike, and then the guy that fell off his bike ended up in worse position than Trigger did in the end. So Trigger's fine. He's just got quite a lot of cuts on his legs and stuff. So yeah, he was jumping around. He was a bit traumatized more than anything else, than injured, and I was too. So there we go.
So did he have to go to the vets or anything?
No, I didn't. You know, the vets are huge money anyway, but it looked like like you fall on the concrete or the gravel for us. It was on his knee, it was on his ankle, it was on his toes. He also had a graze on his head, and he had like a little scab on his body. But when I seen him jumping around on a settee and stuff, like not long after, and posing, I realised that he was muscle-wise okay, just obviously, shocked.
He's okay.
Yeah,
that's cool. Everybody wants to know that he's okay. We've got 45 people watching this, but Trigger's okay. Yeah,
I was pretty concerned, to say the least. You can imagine.
Of course you are, because I last time I saw Trig, he was in your backpack in Oxford. I was like, oh, yeah. There he is. But the reason why I have to say thank you for coming onto this stream tonight is because, right, fundamentally, whatever you say it, Llanelli, right?
Yeah.
Now, okay, so, all right. So this is what everybody wants to know. Everybody wants to know, what is the current situation happening outside of that hotel? Would you be able to tell everybody?
Okay, let me give you like a couple of minute breakdown on what's happened. So I thought almost 6-7 weeks ago, the community of Furness, which is a population of 400 people, were informed that 200, or actually it was 300 originally, but they've moved that number down to 241. Strangers are going to be moving into that little community. So they had about a week's notice before things started to move. 95 people that were employed there. There was around about 50 full-time employees, and about 45 part-time employees. They were all sacked or made redundant, including the manager. So the manager had to tell everyone, and at the same time, he said, "I'm out of a job too." So they didn't keep anyone on, and obviously the community are up in arms because it's the pinnacle of hotels in that area, and I mean quite a big area, I'm sure. I've looked at the Google photos of it, and it's really nice on the inside, and it's pretty damn good on top of the hill or from the outside. So it is the pinnacle around there for like sort of baby christenings, birthdays, weddings, funerals, you name it, you'd want it done there really if you had a choice. So the people are up in arms about it. The councillors and the MPs have hidden it originally. I can't give you the time states on how long they hid it for, but they clearly were in advance to knowing of what went on and purposely hid it. Well, Welsh Labour, we're a sanctuary country now for anyone from anywhere in Wales, just so we know, and we're a sanctuary. But when it comes to economic migrants, asylum seekers, and refugees, whichever way you want to call them, his policy is to put them out into housing straight away, put them into social housing. So I've always found, I mean, the whole scenario from central UK government is a joke. Just allowing this to keep on happening, and then you got the Welsh Labour that says, well, we'll just stick them into social housing, so your nieces and nephews and your children that are on social housing waiting lists just get pushed back, because they don't go into the queue. As soon as they're processed, they go into the next available. So the breakdown in LLanelli, in the Straddy Park Hotel, is that there's a driveway into the hotel, which is basically its only entrance and exit, and it is owned by one of 4 abodes, small houses that run on that driveway, but it includes the hotel. Because of the change of use, they decided to void the contract and prevent the hotel from entering using the only entrance and exit they had. Basically, they didn't even have a foot entrance, footpath. Their footpath was the shared driveway between the hotel and 4 dwellings. So it was a bit of like as they described it, this mainstream media legacy is a siege. But they could leave at any time. There wasn't a problem in leaving, but they refused to leave. So yeah, about 2 weeks ago, there was security in there for 6 days. They didn't leave. All their deliveries were picked up on the entrance of the driveway, and the pizzas and the Chineses and the curries were very much appreciated by the protesters, especially the American hot pizza. It was very nice.
Oh, yeah, but down there, right? Would you be able to tell everybody who's actually listening in and watching right now? Would you be able to tell everybody what happened to those 6 guys that turned up without SIA badges? What was that about?
So I'll go a tiny bit further back. So after like the 6-7 days of the original, they're a veteran security firm that did fight for our country, but now they seem to be actively working against the decline of our country. According to their own social media posts, they have very similar views to ourselves. But when it comes to the hard cash of £500 to £1,000 a shift or whatever they're on, they've decided to put their country behind their money grab. So after they left, the hotel was left abandoned for about 4 or 5 days. There was no one in the hotel, 0. And then this rabble of 6, I called them scallies in my video, turned up and producing no identification. When I mean identification, I mean SIA badges, and blatantly refused to display their SIA badges. And their excuse is because of the job they've taken on. But according to the SIA, their governing body, just because they've taken on a spicy job, it doesn't mean that they've got to. They haven't got to. It means even more that they would have to wear their identification in a spicier location, I would suggest. So there was an awful lot of when they within 10 minutes of them arriving. I got there a bit late. I was elsewhere. I had a phone call to say get down there. Get down to Delta 1 now, which is the main base, and went down there, and the security's down there, or this new security, and they're waiting to try and get in. So it was dealt with by other people at the time that they managed to get into the hotel, which I think would have been inevitable. There was no way of preventing them, but I wish I'd have got there a little bit earlier, because I would have maybe picked up that they didn't have any SIA badges on show.
So, but when you went over to the Welsh police, right? What if you want to tell everybody, what did the police actually say to you, mate? What did they say to you?
Yeah, so within 10 minutes, as soon as they started giving directives, basically as soon as they got out of their cars, parked their cars out, got out of their cars, and then went to approach the members of the public, And remember, the members of the public are not on the hotel land; they're on the driveway bit. I noticed he had no SIA badge on show, and I expressed that point, and I was told that they didn't need one by him, and I informed him that's completely untrue. And I went to the police officer, and the police officer informed me that you just listen to him. I said, listen to who? Who is he? He said, I've been told he's security. I say, well, to me, he's just someone in black clothes. He's got no SIA badge. I mean, and the police basically said that they weren't going to act. They'll have a chat with their chief, but that would take time. And as I've looked at the footage and other people's footage of that period, all of a sudden the police left, which was, I thought, quite telling, because now you look back on it in days' time and you realise that the police, at that point, I was convinced it was illegal, but I didn't want to call my cards until I, should we say, done my research. And obviously by the police disappearing from from a very spicy situation all of a sudden to actually disappear and leave, was quite telling, to say the least. And of course, I spoke to police abusing powers, Pat, and I said I'm convinced it's a crime, and he was too. And he went searching, and he came back with all the relative legislation and policy. And those 6 scally security after the first altercation were not seen in public approaching members of the public, or actually seen in the hotel grounds for, I think it was a day and a half. And then on this Monday morning, the original mercenaries for hire security, they went into site through the driveway's got to be kept clear, 12 foot of it, for the hotel. So they drove in, and as they drove in, the scally security drove out, which I thought was very telling, because by this stage, by even Sunday, there was no illusion that this was 100% a criminal matter, and up to 6 months in prison and a £5,000 fine. So there was no shadow of a doubt what was going on here. And even the police, when I interviewed a sergeant the night before, admitted that it was a criminal offence. So they left at 6 in the morning, or 6:15. I wasn't there, but I was told. And I believe they left because one or more did not have a licence. And the police licensing board had been informed, because a crime had been referenced through 101. And on top of that, SIA had been informed first thing Monday morning. And I believe people have been informing. So I think it would be a good idea for people on the listen. If you go to SIA's website, you'll find a hotline and a tip line there. So it's a criminal matter. Their excuse they gave was because it was a spicy location. They didn't say spicy. I'm putting the word in spicy, but they said because of this job and this particular job, we don't need to, which, as we now know, is a lie and incorrect.
It is a lie. So it's unbelievable what's happening.
Yeah, so basically, for a day and a half, the police were aware that this is a criminal matter now. And what they call it, I think it's proportionate, right? Now, what's funny about that is that you can sort of argue that point if say the crime happened and it was accidental and it was in the past, but there was no injuries and no harm. Now, I understand why the police officers say, well, it's not really in our remit then to do that then, and we can pick and choose to prosecute. I sort of can get that. But what they were actively doing was allowing these people to commit an offence knowing that an offence had been committed and continued to do so, and basically allowed the criminals to leave the establishment unchallenged.
Yeah.
And I spoke to the one sergeant, the one I interviewed on my channel, and I made him aware of it. I've sent him all the documentation, and I made him perfectly aware that he does have the right. We have the right to view the SIA on display, preferably on the arm, but they won't put it on the arm. They'll put it on a lanyard now, like the new security are doing, or a police officer or an SIA official can actually examine it in hand.
Precisely. Precisely. There were 6 grunts there, right? There were 6 grunts. If everybody watches watches your video, watch your live stream, there are 6 grunts there, and none of them had an SIA badge on show. Now, whenever, like, say for example, Yorkshire Rose goes to a hotel or Active Patriot or Steve Laws, whatever, show it. They always hide it. But the fact that there was no SIA badge on show was quite concerning for us. It's like, what the hell?
Especially when one of them was carrying a spanner wrench in his hand.
Yeah. Right. Would you like to tell everybody about this spanner? Yeah.
Well, I mean, basically, he was in black clothes, and he was brandishing. Well, brandishing might be a clickbait term, but I used it on my community post. He certainly had a big, like, wrench in his hands, and he was communicating with the public. I would suggest that would go against policy too. I mean, I don't know. It just seems to be like, I'll be saying not the right sort of thing to have in your hand when communicating with the public. You know, because he could turn straight away and then attack. I don't know, but yeah. Liam's gone.
For the resident, what actually happened there with the fences?
So the court order says the driveway shouldn't be blocked. The 12-foot driveway. So the first thing is they were blocking it with a fence. So that was the first thing it's supposed to be kept clear at all times. So there's that. 2, it wasn't their fence. The fence was actually the protesters' Harris fence that was confiscated by the original security the previous week or 2. And during that performance, of all accounts now, they might have a charge on me for some common assault to a security guard. But the footage is available on 3 different cameras, and I've got all the footage. And there's the only contact is made is when he contacts me with his arm, and I shrug his arm away. So he makes contact with me, someone in black clothes. I said I identified as a police officer at that point, or a fireman. You know what I mean? He said he identified as a security guard. He had no way of knowing. But yeah, I'm basically not going to be going down for the next couple of days, simply because I have a very important function on the weekend. So keeps me out of that one.
But, we'll keep you out of it. But right before we wrap this up, because you've been to LLanelli, right? Is that how you say it?
LLanelli.
Okay, right. Okay, right.
Okay,
right. Shanafley. All right. Okay. Right. If you were to say to everybody that you've met all of the local residents, you've met people from all walks of life, right? You've met all people. What is their opinion of what's happening in Furness? Are they happy? Obviously not. What is their main concern? What is their main concern?
Well, I mean, It was a bit like Penally when I went to Penally. 234, I believe, was the number there. But 234 Swedish men moving into your community, it would be a shock to your community. And the also problem you've got there is because this village is maybe half a mile. It's one road or a couple of roads actually, but it's one road and some side roads. Obviously, it's got two pubs. It's got a rugby club, and it's got the Pinnacle Hotel in that area, in that like 20-mile square. Now, it's not just the local people who have been, they haven't got any jobs anymore. Not just them. What the hotel guests bring to the community. So obviously all the connecting businesses like the florist is now shut because the florist is not getting any trade. Anyone who's doing any tours in the area, anyone, with taxis, hire vehicles, all these things, and now all the pubs in the village, all those things are now sort of affected by what's happened. So it won't be, when they say when these big establishments like, the steelworks closed down and there's 3,000 workers maybe redundant, they say there'll be 1,000 people who are connected to the business that will go down, over the next 6 months. And, I would suggest if like 95 people made redundant immediately, maybe another 40, maybe another 30 will be in the next 6 months in connection with that, food suppliers, mushy dry clean, all sorts of stuff.
So, what do you think the future holds for LLanelli, whatever? I can't pronounce. What do you think the future holds? Is it going to happen? Are they coming in?
Yes. So the locals, because they've lost the right to keep the driveway by the High Court, because the High Court has given permission for the hotel to have a 12-foot wide path going through there. It's they can basically get on and do what they need to do, which is to empty the hotel of around about 90 odd beds and all the cupboards to go with it, and then they've got to put in all the new stuff with all the new British with cupboards and everything else. So
what's going to happen then?
So yeah, there's nothing there to really stop anything from happening anymore. So if for example, you block the driveway by sitting down, you can get immediately arrested for that now. You can get arrested because of the court order, and you can get arrested from, it's funny, see, because the police couldn't do anything because of the driveway issue, because it was a civil issue.
Basically, what you're saying is, so what you're basically saying, right? What you're basically saying is that all of your protest has been in vain, and that hotel is going to be used in Wales, and they're coming like it or lump it.
Correct.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Oh my God. Right. It's the exact same thing. It's the exact same thing that happened down here, right, in Folkestone. It's the exact same thing with Napier Barracks, Carlton Hotel.
Yeah, the difference.
State Court, right?
The difference you didn't have a private driveway. See, that was the difference. What they had a private driveway, or a driveway that was in communal use between the hotel and the dwellings. So because they had that, that's why the police couldn't. They had to have an invite to come on the private property. They were invited, when they wanted to come. They had to. So the difference was when the court went on Thursday, the courts then said that you've got to give him 12 foot for 6 months.
Well,
it's basically game over. So
it is basically game over. But what I have to say is, hats off to every single person outside that hotel. Hats off to them. Hats off to them. Right, but It just feels like the government will ride roughshod over you, whatever. They're putting them in that hotel, right?
Yeah.
Regardless. We
Yeah.
don't care. And I think it's sick. I think it's sick, and I think it's wrong. I think it's wrong, mate.
Well, I mean, I don't know how anyone could think you're going to live in harmony when you move 241 strangers in a village of 400. I really don't think how. And I think,
Can you just repeat that? 400, right? In a village of what? 400.
yeah, a population of 400. They've moved 241 strangers into it, or they will be.
Wrong. So wrong. It's not fair. It's not fair on the locals.
But it's so yeah. Since the court case on Thursday, it's basically and unless the citizens were was going to do say mass civil disobedience or mass non-compliance, which would then have risked arrest, risked a mass arrest, then I would suggest it's game over. That's the only option left, is to actually just go mass compliance and just 10 people get arrested. And then when 10 people get arrested, just turn around and next 10 people sit down. And then they get arrested. That's what it would need. That was my only option. And I've said this for weeks now. That is your only option. I never thought the court case would win. I knew it was a foregone conclusion. Basically, it was issued on the court case was put together on the Saturday, given to the courts on the Saturday. First court case on Tuesday. Judge adjourned it and said he wanted to speak to the residents. He said to email me on this number. So yeah, I don't know how many emails he had, but he obviously had fucking hundreds, right? How was he supposed to read those emails anyway and digest them in 48 hours between Tuesday afternoon and Monday and Thursday morning? I don't know how he's supposed to digest all them. And so it's all bollocks, and it's just going through bollocks procedure nonsense just to say, oh yeah, we spoke to everyone.
So what would you say, right? Let's wrap this up, because this is really, really interesting for everybody, right? What would you suggest that everybody down there in Wales, or across the whole of the country, across the whole of the world, how can we stop this?
Well, to be truthful, I mean, if I speak on the Straddy Park's thing, it would be my option of taking mass arrests, and that would be it. Ridiculous as it sounds, there's only so many cells in Llanelli, and they ain't got that many. And when they arrested 4 people a couple of weeks ago down there, 2 women, they had to take one of the men to Brecon, which was about an hour away. So, and it wasn't for being an arsehole. They had no cells locally, and they nicked the people about tea time, and their cells were full at tea time. So, at that point, then I'm suggesting, well, if you take mass arrest and if you take non-compliance to risk mass arrest, then what are they going to do after they nicked 15 people? What are they going to do then? That was my idea.
Yeah, there we go.
But it's an extreme idea, and people obviously don't want to get arrested. Like, obviously, no one wants to get arrested. But I think that would have been the only way around that, was to just literally take as soon as one person gets arrested, take their place, and you continue that until they stop arresting you, because they would have to take you somewhere, and they can't take you anywhere because the cells will be full after a while. That's the way I was thinking about it.
Right. Based, you know what? This has been a really, really lovely conversation with you this evening. I said thank you so much, because I said, okay, right, I'm going to speak to Based on Tuesday. That was 4 days ago. And, you're down there, you're on the front line, you know exactly what's going on, you've spoken to the local residents, you know exactly what's going on. But quite frankly, we are up the paddle without, we're up the proverbial without a paddle, aren't we?
And for an insight for anyone, if they want to, there's a video on my channel called Professional Sergeant, And between what he says and he had to bullshit me a little bit, but you can tell by his tone and the way he's speaking to me that his hands are tied. And I was actually very calm on that interview. So it just shows that even when there's, you would suggest maybe a good officer that has, even then he's being controlled. Even then, you know.
I'll tell you what. I'm going to put the link down to your channel. Right, I just have to say here, first off, thank you so much for taking the time, right, for half an hour of your evening. I hope Trigger is okay.
Yeah, he's great.
I love him. Last time I saw Trigger, he was in a backpack in Oxford. Right, there he was. I was like, "Hello, baby, what are you doing?" Right, what a lovely, lovely boy you've got. Right, and I hope he's okay.
Yeah, and empty child is correct in the chat. The whole village needs to just block the entrance and say "F you" to the old girl. They can't arrest the whole village.
They can't.
That was exactly basically what I'm saying. It is.
All right, mate. Right. I'm going to love you and leave you. And thank you, everybody that's actually joined in. Based Welshman knows his shit. Based Welshman knows his shit. And thank you, mate, for joining. And
thank you, everyone.
Yeah.
Cheers, Liam.
I'll speak to you soon. Cheers.
Take care, mate.
Bye for now, mate. Love you. Bye-bye. Bye-bye.